In this video, I will demonstrate how to import a very simple standard format file into Flex. In my text editor, I have a file where each record consists of one Indonesian word, that's the vernacular language, and one English gloss. I've already set up the project in Flex. I've called it Indonesian 1, and I've set up the vernacular writing system to be the language I'm studying, which is Indonesian, and I've set up the analysis writing system to be the language I'm using for glosses and example sentences, and that's English. That's the most important thing you can do with an empty project, is to make sure that you get the writing system set up correctly. Now to import, we go to the File menu, and we choose Import and Standard Format Lexicon because we're using standard format markers in the file. And then we will need to navigate. I will click Next. We need to navigate to where the word list is. So here, I click on the three dots and I choose this word list 1. That's the one that I want to import. Now notice, if you're choosing a file that has never been imported before, it decides to get the settings from an import map that's based on the defaults for the MDF multi-dictionary formatter standard for toolbox files. It only pulls this in the first time. Once you start fiddling with the settings, then it will save the settings in another file, and that will be in your same folder with a name similar to your database, but it will say import settings.map. So all of this is good. That's the file I'm importing. I will click Next. And here it wants to know about writing systems. Now, because my project has the vernacular language Indonesian, it's assuming that it can call Indonesian vernacular. Now, these descriptors over here are just labels that get used during the import process, and they will never be used again in your project in Flex. They're just convenient. It assumes that English gets mapped to the English writing system, and if I had other languages, I could set them up there using either the Modify button or Add. But for now, this is exactly what I want. Everything is already in Unicode. I don't need to do encoding conversion while I'm importing. So I will click Next. And now it has scanned my SFM file, and it's telling me all of the standard format markers that are in the file. And it's guessing that the LX field is for the lexing form, because that's what the MDF standard says, and that is in the vernacular language. And it's guessing that GE is for the gloss, and that's in the English language. And all of that is correct. If I needed to change something, I could, but for this round, I don't. We can visit that in some future video. So I will click Next. And now the importer wants to know which markers signal the beginning of different levels of the hierarchy. So the first thing the importer wants to know is, how can it know when it sees a new entry? And the LX marker is what tells you that you're on a new entry. And then it wants to know, how do I know I'm at the beginning of a sentence? And in this particular data, when you see the gloss, the GE field, that signals the beginning of a sentence. And if there was more than one GE field, that would be the way to get more than 1 sentence in the record. But in this data, because it came from a spreadsheet, there's only 1 sentence per entry. So that all looks good. So now I will click Next. This is about indicating markup for things like bold or italic or different writing systems that are embedded, but none of that is in this data. So I will just click Next. You always want to generate the preview report. It may or may not say anything interesting, and this particular one doesn't say anything that I didn't know about. So I will click Next again, and when I'm ready to finish, it will again display the final import report. I will click Finish. And the only thing different from the preview, is that it tells me how long it took to load the data. It took 0.1 seconds, so that's pretty good. Okay, and now I look at my database, and all my words are in there. I can look down at the bottom, and I see that there are 11 words, and that's what I wanted. I am going to make a backup just for good measure. And there is a place to add a comment to the file name of the backup, and I always like to include some sort of comment to indicate why I made this backup, so that if I ever needed to restore, I would know why I should pick this particular one. So I will type after import and click OK, and I have made a backup, and I'm done.